Yo, what's going on, guys? Chris Barner here, Overtime Athletes. And for today's video, what I wanted to address was sport-specific agility training for athletes, okay? I wanted to talk about my method and how I utilize it and when it's appropriate within working with an athlete. Now, it's important that we first understand the difference between actual skill training and the tactics and the technique of that actual athlete versus strength and conditioning, resistance training, peak performance training, which is on our side as far as strength and conditioning coaches. Now, obviously, between those two, there's a little bit of a blurred line, especially late in the off season where you might get a little bit more sport specific. But the whole goal, or my approach to it, the whole goal of us from a strength and conditioning perspective is to break down and elevate those fundamentals that then translate over to the skill of the actual athlete. So if we're understanding that, then we don't blend. Now, if you're a skill coach who happens to have strength and conditioning background, or if you're a strength and conditioning coach who happens to have the background of that skill, let's say they're a football player and you were a football player, obviously you can blend things. But for the most part, I see the best results with my athletes when, they come in here, we elevate their physicality, or we elevate the components, the fundamentals that then translate over to their skill work, and having that separation where they work with me as a specialist in this weight room versus they work with a specialist on the actual field in their actual technique and tactics. You can see the athlete elevate tremendously. But what we do address, to address what we do sport-specific training here, is we focus on building up the fundamentals of that athlete. And the way you do that is by breaking down the mechanics of change of direction, okay? So what that means is having an understanding of, as a coach, being able to break down, again, those mechanics, and then being able to train them independently and then integrating them as a whole. So what this would look like as an example, let's say I'm training a wide receiver, right? And that wide receiver obviously is gonna run a out route, okay? So they're gonna plant, they're gonna be moving linearly, plant off of one foot and be able to cut 90 degrees. So how do we train that as a strength and conditioning coach? Well, first and foremost, breaking down the mechanics of change of direction, we know that that athlete needs to position themselves to decelerate, know how to plant that foot, transition, which would be your amortization phase, and then be able to accelerate out of that 90 degrees. So what we would work on is, first and foremost, we would work on deceleration, right? So being able to decelerate, having a strong eccentric contraction off of that plant leg. Then B, we can work on amortization phase and all the things associated with ground contact to be able to have less ground contact when they do plant the leg. And then finally, we can work acceleration out of it concentrically to be able to have an explosive concentric contraction out of that movement. So I might do things such as breaking down that actual movement to a fundamental base. We might work on depth jumps on a single leg. We might then move to quick ground contacts in that same kind of motion. And then we might focus on things such as a lateral broad jump where we're focusing on that acceleration out of the movement. And then we might integrate it as a whole to create some kind of plyometric, things such as a single leg broad to 90 that will then, again, elevate that athlete to translate over to that out route that they might be running. So it's important for us to be able to break down the fundamentals of movements that they're doing, understand the change of direction mechanics, then go ahead and elevate those as a whole to see the athlete get better in their skill set and on the field. So I hope that helps. I know it's a little bit long-winded, but I really wanted to break down when sport-specific agility is appropriate and when you should leave it out of your scope and let the skill coaches handle and specialize in what they do. Hope that helps. I'll talk to you guys next time.